Welcome back to Oschersleben. We are here for the afternoon's racing in Euromoto, encompassing all three classes this afternoon. We get started in just a few moments' time with the Euromoto Supersports, their second race of the weekend. Here's where the standings are. Dirk Geiger, the winner yesterday in race number 1, just 11 points clear of Daniel Blin, who of course was the runaway force early in the season, but a poor weekend at Most leaves him second in the standings ahead of the injured Lennox Lemmon, who is pushing through. He's third in the standings. Siedbrath and Luca de Flischauver rounding out the top 5 in the standings coming into this weekend. But Lennox Lemmon, as we allude to, that number 28 bike.
Genau so schaut es aus, Jungs. Und zwar, er hat es aufs Grid geschafft, Gott sei Dank, Dirk. Aber es gibt heute etwas, was für dich auch Neuland sein wird. Das letzte Jahr kanntest du es bereits von hinten aus diesem Feld zu starten. Hast glamourös das ganze Ding dann auch noch gewonnen. Im zweiten Rennen Platz 2. Aber die Regularien haben sich ein bisschen geändert. Und dementsprechend musst du aus der Boxenklasse gleich starten.
Ja, genau. Ja, in der Story von Apreco haben wir es schon ein bisschen erzählt. Ist ein bisschen doof gelaufen. Gestern habe ich einfach ein bisschen gespürt, dass ein bisschen mehr Vibration im Motor drin war und dann auch ein bisschen Powerverlust da war. Und wir haben halt einfach den Hintergrund nicht gefunden oder die Ursache. Deswegen sind wir jetzt einfach auf Nummer sicher gegangen. Da lieber jetzt irgendwie ein 5 oder Top 5 Ergebnis mitnehmen oder ein Top 6 Ergebnis mitnehmen als irgendwie ein Nuller. Von dem her, ja, ich bin gespannt, ich habe Bock drauf und ich werde natürlich all in gehen und da komplett einfach durchflügen.
Da sind wir natürlich alle sehr, sehr gespannt drauf, wie das passieren wird. Für euch zu Hause zur Erklärung, es gibt natürlich eine begrenzte Anzahl an Motoren, die hier verwendet werden dürfen in der Supersportklasse. Und hierbei handelt es sich schon um das dritte Aggregat, der dritte Motor, der verwendet worden ist. Das bedeutet, zwangsläufig müssen dann die nächsten beiden Rennen halt aus der Boxengasse gestartet werden. Das heißt, Dirk Geiger startet das heutige Rennen aus der Boxengasse und das erste Rennen in Assen dann, wenn wir in 2 Wochen dort vor Ort sein werden.
So, some news relayed there in German that I'll translate for you in English. Dirk Geiger is starting this race from pit lane owing to a new engine. So the number 60, Dirk Geiger, will be starting this race from the rear. He's on pole position. We just heard from him down there, but he'll be peeling into the pits at the end of the formation lap and starting this one from pit lane because they had to fit a new engine to that bike. So that is a big twist, not just in today's race, but potentially in the championship as well, because as we alluded to, Geiger, the championship leader by 11 points. Daniel Blin had his misfortunes, of course, at Most last time out. But now the new championship leader, Dirk Geiger, has his own concerns to worry about. In fact, everyone in the top 3 has their concerns to worry about in recent times. Blin with his poor outing, unfortunately, at Most. And indeed, they had gear selection issues, or at least quick gear change issues on the bike yesterday. Daniel Blin and the Automarket AF Racing team, the Panigale V2, seemingly struggling with its up and down changes. That's part of the reason that he was a mere 3rd place yesterday. And Lennox Lemmon, who runs 2nd in the championship right now, he's, as I alluded to, nursing an injury. Now, it's quote-unquote only a finger fracture, but depending how you fracture a finger, that can be borderline debilitating. And it's been pretty bad for Lennox Lemmon. He had to have surgery. He sustained the finger fracture in the midst of the Suzuka 8 hours, but managed to run to 2nd place yesterday. However, he was reporting a lot of pain. And also, if you are
jemand, den wir natürlich ganz lange auch schon kennen, Jorke Erwig. Jorke, was gilt es jetzt im Rennen zu beachten?
Oh, ich glaube für mich besonders jetzt nach dem Sturz gestern einfach direkt wieder in den Rhythmus kommen. Mich im Idealfall direkt an die Gruppe mit dem Philipp und dem Freddy anschließen und dann einfach Vollgas geben. Wir fahren jetzt hier dieses Wochenende alle für den Stony und ja, einfach alles geben und dann am Ende sehen, was rauskommt.
Dabei wünschen wir dir ganz, ganz viel Glück. Ja, schön oben bleiben und natürlich ganz, ganz viele Punkte einheimsen. Du weißt, wofür du es tust. Gerade angesprochen auch, wollen wir das natürlich nicht außer Acht lassen. Hier wurde eine ganz, ganz tolle Aktion gemacht mit einem riesen schönen Banner. Natürlich für unseren Philipp Steinmeier, die Startnummer 41, die leider vor ein paar Wochen im Rahmen der Alpe Adria in Brünn, ja, leider nicht mehr unter uns weilt. Ein ganz, ganz toller Rennfahrer, aber jemand, der immer positiv der Sache entgegengewirkt hat und gesagt hat, hey Leute, that's Racing, das gehört einfach nur mal zu unserem Sport dazu. Und die machen das heute von der EDA-Truppe ganz, ganz bravourös, da bin ich mir ganz, ganz sicher. Wir machen jetzt noch einmal ganz, ganz kurz Werbung und dann geht's ab hier in das zweite Supersportrennen des heutigen Tages.
Well, we heard from Jorke Ervig there in German just before our ad break, and we also saw the banner commemorating the late Philipp Stenmeyer, who unfortunately we lost a few weeks ago in a different series, but a very familiar face in the IDM and now known as Euromoto paddock, and we extend our well wishes to him. Dirk Geiger, Daniel Blin and Luca Gertlicher, the top three on the grid for this race. Lennox Lemmon, Luca de Vlischauver and Marvin Sibdraff, the top six on this grid. Keep an eye on Blin, that Panigale fast out of the blocks, the middle of the front row. Philipp Feigl, Freddie Heinrich and Jorke Ervig on row 3. Julius Aronkiel-Frell, Philip Novotny and taking us down to 12th position, of course, Marvin Krimes, then Julius Caesar Rurig, Peter Feigl and Jindrit Skopek rounding out the 15 set to take the start here. But of course, Dirk Geiger, we allude to him being on pole position, but we've also heard that he's going to be starting this race from the pit lane. They had to change engines on that Yamaha YZF R9. The crew detecting something amiss with that bike, and as a result of that, the Team Aprico Yamaha rider will be trundling down to the end of the pits, watching the field pass by and then taking a delayed start to the race. How high up the order can he come from what will be 15th and several seconds behind the rest of the pack, I wonder. Formation lap begins. Riders with one last opportunity to see what the track is like, to see how their bikes feel. Of course, a lot of oil laid down here on the approach to Hasseröder, the second or the third corner of the lap in the earlier Superbike race, and you can see everyone taking a shallower line into that apex now to avoid the oil that was laid down in the Superbike race earlier on, which curtailed the Superbike race, split it in twain. Now Geiger, as we alluded to, set to peel into the pits. Daniel Blin will be relishing the opportunity to effectively start from pole position on the second place grid slot. Of course, Blin's beginning to this season on the Automarket AF Racing Team Ducati was stellar. 4 wins in a row, swept Sachsenring, swept Brno a few weeks later, but then Most didn't go to plan. Of course, race 2 at Most was cancelled after a couple of red flags, but in the first race, Blin was struggling. and only scored 3 points in that race. He had issues, forced him to finish 16th. And yesterday he had those shifter problems. We saw a bike peeling in. That was Geiger, the 60. So big drama for Geiger and his potential bid for the Euromoto Supersport Championship. We're not quite halfway through the season, but at any point in the season with a competitor like Daniel Blin or Lennox Lemon to consider, it is a cardinal sin to drop points. However, Team Aprico Yamaha identified an issue with the engine. They had to swap engines. It's Daniel Blin, therefore, with the de facto pole position. We go racing in Oschersleben. And who's going to lead the race down to the first corner? It's going to be Blin by a country mile. The Ducati Panigale strong as always. Lennox Lemon, second position by the looks of it. So Lemon with a good start. I think that's Luca de Fleischhauer who has moved up into third position. I believe Dirk Geiger has left the pits as intended. Yes, he has. Geiger, though, with a lot of work to do to reach the back of the pack and then start picking them off. It's Blin at the front of the field then in this, the second race of the weekend for the Euromoto Supersport division. They run down the back straight towards the S's for the first time, and certainly Blin is under some pressure. That Ducati is always very quick in a straight line. But the Yamahas seemingly have a little bit of a fleet-footed edge around the corners. In fact, it's Luca Gertlicher in second place, is it? That was the case through the middle sector. Yeah, it is. Okay, Gertlicher was up to second. He's now down to fourth place. I think actually that was from the start of the lap. Yes, it was. So Gertlicher, of course, was second at the start, but quickly dropped behind the two Yamahas. So Gertlicher is fourth, where he has been since the first couple of corners. Didn't think that looked like the MV Augusta in second place. The timing screen giving me a trick there for a moment. So Lennox Lemon is the driver, or the rider, sorry, in pursuit. He mentioned that he had his finger issues, his finger fracture, the surgery thereafter. But he was also using quite a lot of curb in yesterday's race, seemed to be pushing very hard compared to some of those around him, and you'd think that those vibrations, those frequencies through the handlebars would be the last thing he would want, given he's got the finger issues. There's Geiger, running at the rear of the field for now. He will start picking people off, but he's got some work to do. The top four pretty much as one as they once again see through the S's for the second of a scheduled 15 times. Blin, Lemon, de Vlischauer and Gertlicher split by 6/10 last time across the line. It won't be much more this time across the line. In fact, it's less. Half a second between the four of them. Oh, and a look to the inside there from Lennox Lemon, and actually looked like the Yamaha may have had the run there. Up against the Panigale. Of course, the YZF R9 Yamaha, the traditional R6 being gradually phased out. Still a few of them on the grid, the leading of which being Philipp Feigl on his Edda racing bike, his Yamaha YZF R6. Leading quartet. Go through the chicane once again onto the back straight. You can see the different lines there. We've seen that a couple of times. Lennox Lemon sets himself up for a better run down the back straight with his line, but he does leave himself at risk of potentially Luca de Vlischauer making a block pass on the last apex of that chicane. It'd be a rather rude block pass, but They only share a manufacturer. They're not teammates. Lemon on a Team Aprico Yamaha, Team SWPN running De Vlieshalve. Lennox Lemon again with a good run out of the final corner. He's in the toe of Daniel Blin. Can he make a move on the Ducati as they run down to the first corner? Really need to see what's happening down at turn 1, because it looked like there was a move on. But we don't see that. We see Geiger, who's now up to 13th place, but I wonder who's leading. Has it changed hands? Looking at the split times, I think it has. Lemon is the race leader. We need to go to the front of the field because there's been a change for the lead. And there we see confirmation. Daniel Blin has lost out to Lennox Lemon down at the first corner. Just passing through shot, we saw them. That leading quartet are fighting. Lennox Lemon got through on the run to the first corner. Daniel Blin looking to try and retaliate, but he's got Luca De Vlieshalve right there with him. The top 4 cross the line, still very close together. It's up to 0.7 of a second now, but that's trivial. Lennox Lemon, who came into today's race 3rd in the championship, just 15 points back from Geiger, with Geiger deep in the field after that pit lane start, and with Blin behind him. This could be a big day in Lemon's championship, fighting through the pain. We're at 1/3 distance in the race, of course. Will he start to struggle later on, I wonder? Geiger up to P10. Dirk Geiger making his way through the field. Blin there closing up again on Lennox Lemon, who takes a slightly different line through that chicane, but De Vlieshalve has got a great run down the back straight, and he's moved through and past Blin at the S's. It's a Yamaha 1-2, the Ducati demoted. Blin, again, not quite showcasing that magic touch, that edge of pace that he had in the early phase of the season. Now, they did have gear issues with that bike yesterday. Just didn't seem to fire through the gears properly. The quick change system not quite working. And I wonder if maybe that's still not fully fixed. Certainly at the first 2 events of the season in Sachsenring and Brno, Blin's pace was peerless, but one can't rule out the possibility that the others have simply taken a step forward, of course. Blin, once again, closing onto the rear wheel of De Vlieshalve, who currently sits 5th in the championship. It would be a decent day for him as well if he can hold on to 2nd place. I think that would move him past Marvin Siebdrath in the championship. Of course, De Vlieshalve a rider who has a good amount of experience on Yamahas. Of course, he was 4th in last year's IDM Supersports. His best finish was a 2nd place, which he's currently on to repeat. We watched Dirk Geiger on the back of, well, not perhaps his old bike, but one of the R6 Yamahas, losing out there to the R9. That was Feigl in the 92. Philip Feigl, the 21-year-old from Prague, being demoted there to P7 as it now is. Has there been another change up at the sharp end? Yes. De Vlieshauwer has dropped behind Blin. And in fact, he's now under pressure from Goetlicke. The MV Agusta rider who missed out on Sachsenring due to injury is trying to make up for lost time and lost races here. And he goes for third place at the second apex of the S's. That didn't quite pan out. He saw that door closing and realised that his toes were more than likely going to get crushed if he tried to hold the door open. De Vlieshauwer there with a bit of a Larry line out of the final corner across the curbs. Bike didn't look particularly settled now, did it? Of course, Goetlicke, his nickname is Lucky Luke. Goetlicke. And Goetlicke's name translates to divine in English. He's Lucky Luke, he's Divine Luke, you could say. Former pocket bike champion, Honda Talent Cup champion. Has been running in Supersports now for a couple of years on the IDM package, now known as Euromoto. And he's yet to really reach the highest of heights, but this year he's looking very quick aboard the MV Agusta, the F3 800RR, prepared by the LJ Racing team. Front of the field, though, Blin looks to be spooling back up, as it were. Oh, and down goes De Vlieshauwer. Just a low side into the final corner. He just lost out to a move from Goetlicke at the S's, I believe. And De Vlieshauwer, bike down. I don't think he'll be going any further. What could have been his best result of the season so far is unfortunately instead going to be seemingly a non-finish. Now that benefits, bizarrely, oh, and there was actually a touch of wheels between Goetlicke and De Vlieshauwer, and I think De Vlieshauwer really asking too much of that corner, and I think he'd have run wide if it wasn't for an MV Agusta being there. But either way, you can see how angry he was as he stomped off. The leaders through the S's. I think Blin has got a little bit left in the back pocket here. Again, I wonder about Lennox Lemon's longevity in this race, given the pain he was reporting after race 1, with that finger injury sustained at Suzuka in the 8 hours, or in the build-up to the 8 hours. Didn't get to compete in the race itself. And so Blin, the Polish rider, maybe sitting on the back seat, eating popcorn and wondering what he can do. There's been a change for 5th position. Freddie Heinrich has lost out to Geiger. Heinrich running well, actually. Still, despite having lost P5, a P6 finish would still be the best I think we've seen from the Kawasaki rider, the Kawasaki Weber team this season. See if he can hold on to that P6. We saw Lemon there getting a little bit out of the saddle, just on the curbs, turning into the chicane. There is Siebdrath in 4th position. He's been a wee bit anonymous in this race so far aboard his Honda CBR 600 RR. The MCA Racing entrant has been steadily chipping away and consistently scoring points this season, which currently has him on the 4th place spot on the standings, and indeed with De Vlieshalve having his crash, Siebdrath will remain 4th coming out of this weekend. He's yet to stand on the podium this season, but metronomic consistency and making sure you get a haul of points at the end is proving beneficial for Siebdrath. I think Geiger may have the pace to close in before the checkered flag, though. For Lennox Lehmann, if he had mirrors, he'd be referring to them on every straight. He'll be able to hear the distinctive tone of that twin Panigale. As he tries to hold on to this race win. Of course, here in Euromoto, everyone running the same Pirelli tyres, so no consideration to different manufacturers' tyre wear here. Everyone's got the same equipment, but of course each bike uses the tyre differently, so that's also a factor as the race wears on, how the tyres wear on as the race wears on. I think in this case, as we just see the rear break away slightly coming out of the apex for Lehmann. I think really the tale for Lennox is that injury and the pain that he's feeling. You'll know, I'm sure, from day-to-day life that if there's an ache on you, if there's a significant pain on you, it just takes a bit of that capacity away. As Lehmann there runs wide. Seen a lot of wide corner exits from Lennox. He's using all of the track and a little bit more, and he just has to be careful not to tempt fate 1 times too many. 2/3 of this race have been completed now. We're on to lap 12. We're about to conclude lap 12 and begin lap 13. Lehmann and Blin have been running in tandem for several laps here, and I just get the feeling that Blin may be waiting to strike at the right moment. They were 0.272 apart last time across the line. It's down under 0.2 this time, but that's all much of a muchness. Gürtlicher actually looks to be closing in a little bit there in 3rd position to my eye. What was his lap last time by? In fact, no, he lost a couple of tenths last time, but Gürtlicher remains relatively close, and we alluded to Geiger catching Siebdrath, and it looks like it's happening. Well, no, actually, it's happened. The Honda now has a Yamaha for company. Siebdrath has Geiger for company. Dirk Geiger looking to minimise the effects of that pit lane start. He should have been on pole position for this race. Siebdrath runs it wide there, I think, willingly allowing Geiger through. And so the 23-year-old from Mannheim, Germany, is up to 4th place. Last year's IDM Supersport runner-up, of course. So now in the Euro Moto Supersport, wanting to go one better. Splashed onto the scene did Dirk Geiger back in 2024, his first Supersport season. Took a win, was 3rd in the standings, was 2nd in the standings last year, and, well, naturally, he wants to go one better yet again in 2026. Came into this weekend with that 11-point championship lead for 4th position, he'll get 13 points. If Blin wins this race, Blin would be leading the championship by a single point. But if things finish as they are now, Geiger would just about hold on to the championship lead in the Euromoto Supersport. And Lennox Lehmann, if he can win this race, if he can hold on to this lead, he will close in a big way. In fact, I think he and Geiger would be tied at the top of the table with Blin a point behind. In fact, no, that's not quite right, but Lehmann would leapfrog Blin. He would be tied with Geiger, it's just that Blin would be a little further back. Across the second sector split they go. Going to go on to the final lap this time. Powering out of that final corner. The clock is ticking down. Gürtlicher secure in 3rd place. Geiger secure in 4th. But it's positions 1 and 2 that present the quandary on this final lap of the race. Has Blin been waiting? Has he been studying? Now, the place that we see Lennox Lehmann kind of differentiate from everybody else is through the chicane. He takes a slightly different line. He's slower at one apex and faster at the final apex. Could Blin make a block pass knowing that information? They approach the chicane now for the final time. It is Yamaha versus Ducati. Much of a muchness through the chicane. The Team Aprico Yamaha team would love to see a win. Twan Smits, of course, had that engine blow up in the Superbike race this morning. And boy, would they love something to smile about. But Daniel Blin makes the move. Can he retaliate? Can Lehmann retaliate around the outside? Oh, he's out of the saddle. Tries to make it around the outside. He's going to have to settle for second best at the S's on the final lap. Daniel Blin has done it. Or has he? It's a drag race to the line because he was wide out of the final corner. But Blin just holds on. Daniel Blin just by 0.034 has held on to that win. I thought he'd lost it coming out of the final corner there. Lennox Lehmann will be annoyed with that last snap coming out of the penultimate corner. He was out of the saddle a couple of times. If he'd got a better run through the penultimate turn, he might have been able to win that one. Gürtlicher claims 3rd place ahead of Geiger, recovering to 4th. Geiger will have 143 points in the championship. Lehmann will have 139, and so will Daniel Blin. So Blin and Lehmann will be tied. Geiger will be just 4 points clear. That's the maths coming out of that race. So 4 points in it going into the back half of the season in the Euromoto Supersport Championship. That is going to be very compelling as we head through Assen, the Nürburgring, Hockenheim, for the closing stanza of this 2026 season. Daniel Blin to the top. Celebrations ongoing down at the podium. After a thrilling conclusion to this race, Daniel Blin making a great move through the S's on the final lap. Lennox Lehmann tried in vain around the outside at the penultimate corner, out of the saddle on corner entry, out of the saddle again on corner exit. But then Blin just ran it way too deep into the final corner, nearly cost himself the win. And a drag race across the line, just won by the Automarket AF Racing Team Ducati rider. They were almost tied at the checkered flag. They are now tied in the championship points, 4 back from Dirk Geiger, who from a pit lane start has recovered very well to P4. There's confirmation of the results. Blin from Lehmann, from Gürtlicher on 3rd position. Geiger, Siebdrath, Heinrich, Feigl, Julius Caesar Rurig, Arenkiel Frill, and Marvin Crimes, your top 10 in that race, ahead of Novotny, Ervig, Peter Feigl, and Jindrich Skopek. Of course, we had one non-finisher, and that was Luca Di Fleischhauer, who hit the deck around halfway through the race. And that will be costly for Di Fleischhauer. But a great day for Lennox Lehmann, again nursing injury on his finger. But that will be a well-deserved win. I'm sure we'll speak to him in a few moments' time. The 28 to the top step. This is first win of the season after 2 second places. He's yet to be off the podium this year. He started the year with 4 third places, then 2 P2s, and now he's on his first win. Just steadily improving, steadily getting used to the bike. Really impressed with him. As we see Blin. I just said that Lehmann was the winner. My apologies. It was Blin, of course, who won the race. My memory failing me after Lehmann led so much of that race. Of course, it was Blin who got it at the line. Lehmann's still waiting on that first win of the season, I should say. Blin continues to win races. That's his 5th of the year. He'll be happy to return after a tricky most and issues yesterday. I think Blin will be pretty relieved. I think, though, in a few moments we are now going to hear from our top 3. Blin, your winner. Lehmann in 2nd, I reiterate, after my faux pas. And Luca Gürtlicher on the podium for the first time, 2nd time this season. Aboard here's MV Augusta from LJ Racing. Hopefully we'll hear from some or all of them.
Und bevor wir hier loslegen, erstmal einen Riesenapplaus für die 3 hier, die uns ein Riesenrennen geliefert haben. Und beginnen wollen wir das Ganze natürlich mit einem herzzerreißenden, in Tränen aufgelösten Luca Gürtlicher. Schon wieder Podium. Schon wieder einfach gezeigt, was du mit dieser MV hier zustande bist zu leisten.
Ja, auf jeden Fall auch ans Team mega danke, weil das Motorrad war noch nach dem Sturz völlig kaputt und wir haben wirklich auch ein bisschen gezweifelt wegen den Einstellungen. Aber das ist die Belohnung für uns und vor allem auch für eine ganz bestimmte Person, die leider von uns gegangen ist. Aber ja, auf jeden Fall sehr emotional und wir wollen so weitermachen, ne?
Das wollen wir, das hoffen wir sehr, Luca Gürtlicher. Vielen, vielen Dank für dieses Rennen. Wir sehen dich gleich auf dem Podium. Und jemand, der das hier eigentlich schon auch als Sieger hätte beenden können in einem Herzschlagfinale. Riesenapplaus, Lennox Lehmann! Lennox, alles gegeben, unter Schmerzen. In der letzten Kurve fast noch, in der vorletzten Kurve fast noch ein Highsider. Dann auf einmal ist die Lücke noch da, durch eine romantische Ausfahrt noch von Daniel. Und dann ist es dann am Ende doch so knapp.
Ja, schade. Rennen war gut, die Pace war gut, viele Führungskilometer gesammelt. Klar, schade am Ende, dass es dann nur durch Kontaktsport das Überholmanöver kommen kann.
Aber ja, wenn das so sein soll, dann fange ich in Assen damit auch an. Und dann werden wir ein schönes Battle haben, wenn ich wieder fit bin.
Danke dir trotzdem für auch dieses tolle Rennen, was du abgeliefert hast. Wichtige Punkte mitgenommen. Und jetzt hören wir natürlich den Sieger hier vor den Kameras, Daniel Blin. Daniel, back on track, 25 important points.
Yes, I'm really happy. Thank you to all the team because we did a very good job to fix the issues from yesterday. So today everything was solved, so I could keep the pace of Lennox and try to overtake him in the end. So I'm really happy for this. It's a shame Dirk couldn't start from the first position because I would prefer to fight also for the first position with Dirk, but next time we are looking for next round in Assen and see you.
That's what we are looking for. Thank you so much. Da wird es die nächsten spannenden Rennen in Assen natürlich geben mit diesen 3 Jungs, die sich hier wirklich nichts schenken.
Für die Euro-Moto Supersport mit diesem Herzschlag-Finale kommen wir natürlich zur Siegerehrung und wollen unsere 3 Sieger hier oben aufs Podest bitten. Wir fangen an mit dem Drittplatzierten LJ Racing MC Augsburg, die Startnummer 99 auf MV Augusta. Der Platz Nummer 3 und euer Applaus für Luca Göttlicher. Der zweite Platz in diesem Herzschlagfinale. Team Apreco Yamaha aus Deutschland mit der Startnummer 28. Euer Applaus für den Zweitplatzierten, euer Applaus für Lennox Lehmann. Und der Sieger dieses Rennens von Automarket AF Racing Team aus Polen auf der Ducati. Und wenn ich mich nicht verrechnet habe, mit einem Punkt Vorsprung der neue Meisterschaftsführende mit der Startnummer 26, der Sieger des Rennens, Daniel Blin. Die Pokale für unsere 3 Sieger kommen von Max Kumpf, dem Motorradreferenten des ADAC Westfalen. Und er bringt als allererstes den Pokal für den Drittplatzierten. Ihr macht nochmal Applaus für Luca Göttlicher. Der Pokal für den Zweitplatzierten, begleitet von eurem Applaus, Lennox Lehmann. Und den größten Pokal, den hat Max Kumpf für den Sieger dieses Rennens, für Daniel Blin. Und zu Ehren des Siegers hören wir die polnische Nationalhymne.
The top 3 celebrating after a great race in the Euromoto Supersport. Blin with the early lead. Of course, Dirk Geiger, who was set to start from pole position, starting from the pit lane after an engine swap. He had to come from the back of the field. Saw some good battling in the early stages of the race. We saw Luke de Vliechauber making moves. We saw Dirk Dirk Geiger making moves. This was the Fleischhauer against Gertlicher. And that was the moment, unfortunately, that the Fleischhauer went from fighting for his best result of the year to a non-finish. Geiger continued to make his way through. That was Siebdrath losing out to 4th place, but this on the final lap, Flynn diving past Lennox Lehmann. And they would fight right to the line, going the Ducati man's way. He was very happy. He wants to go up against Geiger next time out in Assen, though he declared that. And indeed, Gertlicher and Lehmann both declaring that they were very happy with their bikes. I think we're in for a very intriguing run to the end of the season in Supersport. It looks like a very, very close category. Just 4 points in it between the top 3 coming out of that race. Well, we now move on to the sport bikes. Of course, the sport bikes being led by Stephan Zuda, who has been the runaway championship leader so far this year. Jakob Rosenthaler hoping to make something happen in second. Kit Spickler, Ruben Biemann and Mika Siebdrath, your top 5 in the standings at the moment. But the story of the season has been the Czech on top, Stephan Zuda. Maybe not quite infallible, but pretty close to it. He has only finished off the podium once. That was race 1 at Brno, and that was only a 4th place finish. He's been good. Of course, we lost a race at Most in the sport bikes. They had a couple of red flags. We lost 1 race, so they've only had 6 races so far, including yesterday at here at Oschersleben. But of those 6 races, Zuda has won 4, and the other 2 have fallen the way of Jakob Rosenthaler. So it does seem to be a story of those 2, and indeed, therefore, a story of the Freudenberg Roro Palago racing team for Zuda and RT Motorsports for Jakob Rosenthaler. Can there be a new winner today, I wonder? It's Zuda, Kit Spickler and Sascha de Wits who line up 1st, 2nd, 3rd today. Rosenthaler only starting from 10th position. Now, if you're watching race 1 on the German stream, you will know a little bit about what happened there. Because Rosenthaler missed Most with a leg injury. You may remember he wasn't there at Most. And he was slightly off his best in qualifying. He was only 10th on the grid and finished 5th. He's now got to try and effectively do the same thing, but still carrying that leg injury. He seems to think that it's not too bad, that it's not affecting him too much, but certainly his pace doesn't look quite like what we've seen before. So this is a
Absolut, Lukas,
really
das soll uns mal selbst
weekend.
erzählen. Also das Wochenende lief nicht astrein, sagte Lukas Gajewski gerade aus der Combox oben. Felix Kauer als Gaststart hier beim ERC-Team, super cool, aber gestern auch schon gezeigt, was du von hinten ja in der Lage bist zu leisten. Dann 8. Platz insgesamt. Heute nochmal der gleiche Plan?
Ja, also ganz, ganz wichtig ist natürlich nach unserem nicht ideal verlaufenden Qualifying, dass wir hier einen guten Start erwischen. Ich denke, hier können wir die meisten Plätze gut machen. Gestern hat der Anschluss zur vordersten Truppe leider nicht ganz gepasst. Das müssen wir heute vielleicht im idealsten Fall besser machen. Ich denke, ich brauche noch ein bisschen Zeit auf dem Bike, um wirklich diese letzte Sekunde zur Bestzeit ja auch selber fahren zu können. Ich fühle mich gut, aber dennoch ist es kein Vergleich zu meinem Cup-Bike und die wenige Zeit, die Qualifyings, die uns einfach fehlen aktuell, hoppala.
Oh, da fliegen hier jetzt, ja, der Wind, der kommt auf jeden Fall, zieht ein bisschen was auf, aber es wird sonnig bleiben.
Genau, das hoffen wir mal. Ich bin da gespannt, inwiefern der Wind jetzt das Rennen beeinflussen wird. Das verändert natürlich die Bremspunkte. Ja, schauen wir uns das Ganze von hier hinten mal an. Ich denke, wir haben den besten Blick aufs Grid. Ist auf jeden Fall schön hier zu sein und ich bedanke mich beim ganzen Team für diese Möglichkeit. Es macht richtig Spaß, ich fühle mich sehr aufgehoben, sehr wohl. Ich hab Bock.
Du hast Bock, das merken wir auch, um das jetzt noch mal ganz kurz aufzuarbeiten. Du konntest leider keine Zeit setzen gestern, hattest leider ein Problem und dadurch musst du natürlich als Letzter starten. Was aber keinen Abbruch tut, wir haben es bei Dirk gerade gesehen, es ist manchmal eine relativ angenehme Situation, das Feld vor sich zu haben. Ich muss sagen, du bist aber auch schon ein bisschen angekommen. Also klar, du suchst die eigene Sekunde, aber das Ergebnis war schon super.
Ja, wir sind direkt in den Freitag super reingestartet, direkt in die Top 10 mit einem 8. und 7. Platz in den Practice, glaube ich. Darauf hätten wir natürlich im Qualifying aufbauen wollen. Der Plan war irgendwie Richtung Top 5 zu gehen. Wir hatten leider keine Chance in den Qualifyings durch ein technisches Problem Runden zu setzen, aber alles gut. Jetzt sind wir hier gestern im Rennen mit einem Top-Ergebnis nach Hause gegangen. Ich denke, da haben wir gezeigt, dass wir grundsätzlich die Pace haben, mitzugehen. Und ja, lasst uns schauen, was heute in dem Rennen drin sein wird.
Felix Kraus bei seinem Gaststart hier beim ERC-Team und da sind wir schon sehr gespannt drauf, was es denn von hinten bedeuten wird.
Yeah, guest starter Felix Kraus there, speaking to our pit reporter, replacing Oliver Svensson in the ERC Kawasaki lineup. Good to see your ERC back again. We've not seen them since the season opener at Sachsenring, and the bike seems to be much improved from what we saw at Sachsenring. Really good form from them so far this weekend. Kraus, who was testing in Spain with a different manufacturer a few days ago and has been roped in to go racing in the Euromoto sport bikes for the first time this season. Great to see him back. Of course, he's familiar with Kawasaki's, being a champion previously in the Kawasaki Ninja ZX4RR Cup. That was last year, in fact, that he won that championship, so a return to a Kawasaki saddle for him. But Jules Burko yesterday delighting ERC on their return to the series with a podium, third place yesterday.
Absolut, und das mit Jakob Rosenthaler, einen der Österreicher hier im Feld. Jakob, du gehörst ganz nach vorne, das wissen wir, konntest im Most leider nicht dabei sein, hast dadurch wichtige Punkte an Stephan Suda verloren und musst jetzt natürlich wieder ein bisschen Anschluss finden. Das gestrige Rennen war jetzt nicht so optimal, wahrscheinlich von deiner Erwartung her.
Ja, also das ganze Wochenende ist, wie man sieht, ein bisschen zäh. Habe nur am Freitag ein bisschen zum Kämpfen gehabt mit meiner Verletzung, aber soweit passt eigentlich alles wieder. Ja, im gestrigen Rennen habe ich das Gefühl wieder einigermaßen gefunden, habe den Weg nach vorne wieder aufnehmen können und die Rundenzeiten waren wieder dort, wo es eigentlich sein sollen. Ja, durch die Renndynamik haben wir dann leider gleich einmal am Anfang die ersten zwei verloren und dann war eigentlich das Maximum ein 3. Platz, was dann leider auch nicht gelungen ist. Aber ja, das ist auf jeden Fall für heute das Ziel, wieder nach vorne zu kommen und dann ums Podium und ja, wenn alles gut geht, auch mal einen Sieg mitzufahren.
Deine Erwartungshaltung für den Holeshot, wie weit willst du nach vorne?
Ja, Holeshot wird schwierig, aber ein paar Positionen will ich auf jeden Fall gut machen.
Um dann direkt den Anschluss haben an Stephan und vielleicht dann natürlich da auch wieder ums Podium zu kämpfen.
Ja genau, also das Wichtigste sind wieder die ersten 2-3 Runden, einfach so viele Plätze wie möglich gut machen und dann schauen, was geht.
Ja, mit diesem hübschen Blondschopf wird auf jeden Fall zu rechnen sein, da sind wir ganz, ganz sicher.
Yeah, Rosenthaler from 10th on the grid, second in the standings, but definitely some work to do and suboptimal situation with his injury, with his qualifying position. That leg injury sustained in the days before Most, of course, didn't compete at Most. Bruno Iarachi from the World Sportbike Championship filled in last minute and almost won the second race of the weekend, which would have been a twist in the tail. But yeah, unfortunately for Rosenthaler, I think not quite at 100% and looking to make something happen here. But a podium, which he alluded to in that interview there, certainly a lot of work to get there, but he's aiming for that to try and minimize the points lost to Zuda. Zuda, who from pole position.
Genau, ich habe noch Tom Kuehl hier bei mir und zwar geht es natürlich darum, dass der Teamkollege vielleicht auch ein bisschen Schützenhilfe leistet. Tom, how do you now expect also Jakob to come from behind?
Well, Jakob is very fast. Made this moment had a bit his leg, of course, and now I think he's in 10. But you saw yesterday was already in the front in the first 2 laps, so he will come again. And yeah, this race I think he will try to just push a lot more.
Concerning your own race, what do you expect right now?
The important thing for me this race is to survive the first lap, because in Most and Oschersleben, or the first race here, I made 2 mistakes, dumb mistakes, and I think if I survive the first 2 laps, just look what the race will bring and try to push as always.
Thank you so much, we wish you the best of luck. Also der Tom möchte gerne nochmal natürlich alles geben, nicht so viele Fehler machen wie sonst in den ersten Runden, sagt er, da ist er noch leicht unkonzentriert. Ob die Konzentration jetzt halten wird, das werden wir nach einer kurzen Werbeunterbrechung sehen und dann geht es hier mit dem Sportbike Race Nummer 2 los.
Well, just moments now before the formation lap begins here. Could be a big day this for Stephan Zuda, starting from pole position. The number 23 Triumph Daytona 660 from the Freudenberg Rohrer Peligo Racing Squad. He's joined by Tobias Kitzbichler and Sascha de Witz on the front row. Mika Siebdrath, who got his first podium last time out at Most, he's alongside Tom Kiel, who we heard from just before the break, and Ruben Beeman. Row 3 of the grid, Keanu Weyer, Jules Burkot and Mickey Winkler. Jakob Rosenthaler aiming to move through the field and try and hold on second in the points. Rammersdorfer and Weisel bringing us down to 12th position. Julian Van Kalkeren, Maximilian Palmovsky, JJ Den Hurd, Rick Koistra, Max Stauffer and Ty Henriksen taking us down to 18th on the grid. Lucas Sorensen and guest starter Felix Kauertz rounding out the 20 that take the start here in the Euromoto Sport Bike category. Of course, the sport bikes these days a step down from Super Sport, but not necessarily much of a step down in terms of how they perform. Kind of similar bikes to ride, similar capacities as well, at least to some of the older school Super Sport machines. Of course, the Super Sports these days infringe close to a litre, but these are largely 660s and 600cc bikes. We begin the formation lap then. Stephan Zuda comes into this weekend with comes into today's race, I should say, with a 35-point championship lead, and if Rosenthaler can't make headway from 10th on the grid, that gap will extend out potentially to over 50 points, which with just 3 events to go would be quite the task, quite the ask for anybody to close in on. Rosenthaler will be ruining his leg injury, will be ruining his difficulties in qualifying as well. What can Tobias Kitzbichler do, I wonder, from second on the grid? Kitzbichler, who is currently third in the standings, but some 47 points back from Zuda, the championship leader. He's had 2 second-place finishes this year, including yesterday here at Oschersleben. So I think Kitzbichler will be particularly motivated here on the Viva by Puka and Streeb entry to try and claim a win on his Aprilia RS660, the Austrian rider. And then one certainly can't rule out Sascha de Witz either, the rider of the number 19, who of course has appeared in IDM Supersports before, has won championships in the Belgian Twin Trophy Series, Former Yamaha R3 Cup champion going back to 2019 as well. Knows how to extract the best out of a bike on his day. But De Wits has had a difficult season so far. Missed Brno, had a difficult Sachsenring. Can he have what would be by far his best result of the season if he can remain on the podium today? We're underway at Oschersleben in the Euromoto Sportbikes, and it's a great start from pole for Stephan Zuda, the Czech, leading into the first corner, and looks to be followed there by Kitzbühel. The rest of the field goes streaming through. Sasha De Wits in third place aboard the Kawasaki for ERC. So it's 3 manufacturers in the top 3. Triumph from Aprilia, from Kawasaki. And they remain in their qualifying order for now. Where is Rosenthaler relative to these riders? We will take a look here. It's side by side for the lead. Oh, and just outbraking Kitzbühel there was Stephan Zuda, but the Aprilia showing its hand early. Kitzbühel with the straight line speed, it seems. You've got 5 nations in the top 5. And it is the Czech rider Stephan Zuda at the front. Tobias Kitzbühel, the Austrian, in second. Sasha De Wits, the Belgian, in third place. Ruben Bierman, the Dutchman, in fourth. And Jules Burko, again with a good start. Yesterday's podium finisher is 5th place at the end of the first lap, but he's being directly followed by Jakob Rosenthaler, who's up to 6th place already. He worked his way from 10th to 5th over the race distance yesterday. He's gone from 10th to 6th in 1 lap today. What can he do from there? He wants a podium. He said that in German in the pre-race interview. Can he make it up there? It would certainly help minimize his championship damage up against Stephan Zuda if he can make it happen. Zuda aboard the 23 leads the pack through as they head through the chicane. Again in the tow is Kitzbühel. Again having a look to the inside. He's going to be wary of Sasha De Wits behind him as well. Of course, the tow is a bit of a factor on these bikes. And Kitzbühel trying again to the inside. The tow is a factor, but I also get the impression that the Aprilia just seemingly has a few more ponies. Can Kitzbühel translate that into a run down the longest straight of the lap, which we're going down now? The main straight. Has a look to the inside again. Not close enough to make it work, not close enough to turn it into an overtake. Top half dozen, covered by just over 1.1 seconds. Rosenthaler remains in 6th place. He's got a little bit of breathing room between himself and Mika Siebdrath behind. Tom Kiel down to 8th position. He's made it through the first lap, which was his main objective, as he declared on the grid in his interview. Knows how to win races and championships, does Tom Kiel, as a Dutch Supermoto champion. And we had a change there for 5th place. Jules Burko has dropped behind Rosenthaler, who's already up in 5th place. Here's a change for the lead, potentially. No! Kitzbühel again. Seemingly that bit more confident, that bit more planted under braking. Stephan Zuda holding on to the lead for now. Kitzbühel has the straight line speed advantage. Zuda appears to have the braking advantage. Sasha De Wits has Byman and Rosenthaler right on his exhaust. Side by side again for the lead. This time it looks like Kitzbühel's done it. Yes! Tobias Kitzbühel into the lead, but only briefly. Side by side through Hotel Bend. Zuda just holds on for now. Kitzbühel with his first taste of the lead there. It only lasted maybe 150 meters, but that'll be a tantalizing hit on the taste buds. He wants more. Zuda, the championship leader, from Kitzbühel, from De Wits, from Ruben Byman. That is our top four. Rosenthaler up in P5. How long, I wonder, till he's up in P4, if he can close in further on that podium objective to try and minimise the points loss. I mean, from here, he's in the lead pack. He could yet challenge for the race win. That would certainly be a good reprieve after the difficult race yesterday. Of course, these bikes effectively replacing the Supersport 300s on the production bike racing ladder. They're a bit less slipstreamy than what came before, but it is still a factor, and if you're with the lead pack, that is the first objective, and that is what Rosenthaler has achieved. Indeed, the lead pack has slightly dropped to Jules Burko, so what was a 6-bike lead train has been reduced to 5. 3 manufacturers in that top 5, of course, indeed 3 in the top 3, because it's Triumph from Aprilia, from Kawasaki, and a pair of Triumphs. And Stephan Zuda, whether he knows it or not, should be cheering on his teammate Ruben Byman, because the Triumph rider for Freudenberg Rohrer Peligo Racing is holding off Rosenthaler here, and Zuda, his teammate, would very much appreciate it if the Dutchman kept Rosenthaler behind. Looked again like Kitzbühel was having a look to the inside at the S's, but I just wonder if it's not worthwhile kind of drawing nearly alongside and then costing himself speed through the S's. Could he get a better run through the final corner and down the main straight to make a definitive move if he stopped trying it on the run down to the S's down the back straight? This is armchair psychology, and worse still, armchair handlebar wielding, but I do just wonder if he's better off not trying to go for it at the S's, because we've seen now, what, 5 times that it's not going to work. And now he's under pressure from Sasha De Wits. ERC Kawasaki returning with a much developed Kawasaki after having a disappointing showing at the Sachsenring. Went away, have made improvements, and it seems that bike is singing a much sweeter song. Ooh, out of the saddle there goes Kitzbühel. I think the Austrian is feeling the pressure just a little bit here. De Wits having a look to the inside, and he's made it work, has he? He's through into second place. The ERC team will be wearing a big smile. Yesterday, it was their Frenchman, Jules Burko, on the podium. And today, their Belgian is fighting for the honour. Bit wayward there at the apex of the final corner, but up into P2 for now. Now Zuda's got a little bit of breathing room as all of that was going on. Not much, I grant you, and indeed the slipstream has eroded all of that breathing room by the time they get to the first corners, but Any reprieve will be welcome, I'm sure, for Zuda. Now with a new combatant on his rear, Sasha De Wit, will we see the complexion of this race change? Tobias Kitzbichler still in the mix. They're in third position. Zuda, who's been on imperious form this year, looking to add another win to the tally. Just 20 years of age, the Czech rider. Last year, of course, he was up in IDM Supersport and took 5th in the championship. We know just how good he is. Was fighting through some arm pump issues a few years ago, but has been absolutely fabulous everywhere we've seen him in this paddock. And boy, would a Euro Moto Sportbike Championship aid the Czech riders' path upward. The Freudenberg Rohrer Paligo Racing Triumph leads the way over half distance in this race. The Kawasaki rider De Wit had a look to the inside there. Here's your battle for 6th and 7th changing hands. That's Kiel getting through into P6 at the expense of Siebdrath. Those two riding effectively on their own. Big pack of bikes outside the top 10 doing battle as well, but it's these high positions that pay the points, and Stephan Zuda currently under this pressure from the surging Kawasaki. It's going to be a move into the S's, and it's a move that's worked for Sasha De Wit. Sasha De Wit is through into the lead. Second time he's made a move successfully there going into the S's. And the ERC Kawasaki team are going to be thrilled with what they're seeing. This is a lot more like it. The Kawasaki looked poor, frankly, at Sachsenring. They went missing during the Czech phase of the season. They're back here at Oschersleben, and look at Sasha De Wit go. He's leading. Jules Burko was on the 3rd step of the podium to the team's delight yesterday. If they win the race, I don't know if the party would end before Wednesday, quite frankly. For Sasha De Wit, this would be a headline grabber of a performance. The 24-year-old from Meerbeek, Belgium. Zuda and Kitzbichler shadowing him every inch of the way. It's Kawasaki from Triumph from Aprilia. Belgian from Czech, from Austrian. And they've really broken away from Byman in 4th place as well. Rosenthaler trying to find a way through, but I think 4th will be his ceiling for this race now that the top 3 have broken off. We head on to lap 10 of 13. It's 4 to go. And the ERC camp is going to be the tensest garage in Germany right now. There has been a change for 4th place in the back of shot. Rosenthaler, the Austrian, is through into 4th position. That will, again, slightly minimise his championship points lost to Stephan Zuda. But the real news for him now is going to be where Zuda finishes, because all going well, I don't think Rosenthaler can do anything to make any headway up the field with these 3 broken away. But if Zuda were to finish 2nd or 3rd rather than his frankly customary P1, that would really help Rosenthaler minimise the damage as he continues to fight through his leg injury. Wide there goes Sasha de Wits. He makes it work, carries the speed and powers out of the corner, but a little sign there, some dust being kicked up as well. I think that was by Zuda, who's clearly pushing. Rosenthaler and Byman may not be done with their fight either. Byman holding on for now. Rosenthaler definitely wants to secure that P4. Doesn't want to drop any more points than he has to. He'd score 13 for 4th place. Zuda currently in 2nd would score 20. Sasha de Wits, with all due respect to him, not really a championship contender. Was 19th in the points coming in today, because obviously he missed Bruno, he missed Most, and indeed at Sachsenring the ERC Kawasaki's didn't look impressive at all. So Zuda not really too worried about de Wits being ahead of him. He's just worried about taking those 25 points and claiming a victory. Jules Burko has fallen back a bit in this race. He's only down in 10th place now. So one of the ERC Kawasaki's is struggling, but they won't mind that so long as Sasha de Wits continues to thrive at the front. It's going to be 2 to go next time they cross the stripe. The kilometres are running out, the corners are running out for Zuda. He's got a good run though down the back straight. He's been late on the brakes at the S's. He's making a move at the S's. He's through into the lead. Zuda reclaims his lead. Can Sasha de Wits rally up a return fight? And what about Kitzbichler? Let's not rule him out. He's currently sat there a couple of bike lengths back, watching all of this unfold. He could still win this race. De Wits knows that. He just looked over the shoulder, as we saw. Rosenthaler and Byman watching on as well. Rosenthaler will be thinking, yes, keep fighting each other. Let me close in. 2 to go, and Stephan Zuda has returned to the top step for the time being, but Sasha de Wits will be so keen. I think there's part of him that knows that the team has been struggling and doesn't want to take huge risks. Maybe 2nd would be enough. But when you have that tantalizing taste of leading the race, frankly, only a victory will do at that point in the eyes of a rider. If you've led the race, you want to win it. Can Sasha de Wits find a way on this final lap? Zuda, in his fantastic form in 2026, it takes a real ride to beat him. He currently holds his familiar P1 position, but de Wits and indeed Kitzbichler are right there with him. They head out now onto the final lap. De Wits trying to pick the bike up early, get that power down. Across the line they go. De Wits closing and closing some more on the run down to turn 1. Not close enough to make the move. The run down to Hasselrode has been somewhat compromised as an overtaking opportunity with that cement dust down after the engine failure earlier in the day. A bit more single line than normal on corner entry. Realistically, the next overtaking opportunity beckons at the end of the back straight, so de Wits is going to be trying to set himself up here for the ideal run through the chicane onto the back straight. Looks a bit off the apex there through the triple and through the bottom of the circuit. I don't think he's close enough. No, absolutely not. I think Zuda's just pulled out a bit more here on this final lap of the race. De Wit and ERC will be thrilled with second place. But Stephan Zuda has resumed normal service here at Oschersleben. It's going to be a double win this weekend for Stephan Zuda. The Czech rider tops the day and extends his championship lead. Sascha De Wit, an admirable ride to second place. Kitzbichler in third position, and Rosenthaler just holding on to fourth. You saw there in the back of shot, he and Ruben Byman were very close at the line for fourth and fifth, but Rosenthaler holds on and will lose yet more points to Zuda. The gap in the championship will be out to 47 points in favour of Zuda because of that result, but all the same, Rosenthaler from 10th to 4th is a solid effort, especially considering he's running with that injured leg. But Stephan Zuda, the rider grabbing the headlines, the rider making the noise this year. So far in the Sport Bike Championship, we're over halfway through the season, of course, now with Oschersleben completed. Assen, Nürburgring and Hockenheim remain on the itinerary for this year. Is there a chance for Rosenthaler next time out at Assen to try and claim something back? I'm sure he'll be training as best he can while also recovering as best he can. Well, results then from that race. Zuda does it again. Sascha De Wit nearly winning it, but still claiming a great result for ERC Kawasaki. Kitzbichler, Rosenthaler, Byman, Siebdrath, Kiel, Burko, Weijer and Felix Kauertz rounding out the top 10. Good ride from Kauertz as well to come from the rear of the field to 10th on his guest start. All three ERC Kawasaki's in the top 10. They'll be thrilled with that result. Van Kalkeren in 11th, Palmovski 12th, Weisel, Rammersdorfer, Max Stauffer, Rick Koistra, JJ Den Hood and Ty Henriksen rounding out the 18 that took the checkered flag. But Zuda continues his imperious form. He's holding a Disney Cars playset of some description. Okay. I think he's more about bikes myself, but we'll see. There's Sascha De Wit. Surely the ERC team will be grinning ear to ear. Double podium this weekend. What a day, what a weekend they have had. We'll soon be hearing from our top three. Zuda from Kitzbühel. And from the wonderful performing Sasha De Wits. What a story for De Wits and for ERC. The recovery, the rebound continues. For Kitzbühel, he remains in that hunt for the championship with his P3. For Zuda, he continues to establish himself as the firmest of championship favourites. Now with 5 wins from 7 official races. Of course, Most was cancelled, race 1 at least. He is having a mighty season. In a few seconds, we will hear from our top 3. Good chats there among our first and second place finishers. De Wits and Zuda. And a big embrace there from Stephan Zuda. We should be hearing from Kitzbühel here in just a few seconds. But great to see how much it means to Stephan Zuda. A rebound year for him, dropping down from Supersport, and boy, is that rebound a big bounce. What a season he's having aboard that Triumph.
Alles gut, das kann schon mal passieren. Ich meine, Herr Lehmann ist natürlich auch immer stets und ständig da. Aber wir kommen jetzt erstmal zu unseren Siegerinterviews. Tobi Kitzbühel, Riesenapplaus. Tobi, gestern Zweiter, heute Dritter, musstest du dich leider mit dem 3. Platz zufriedenstellen, aber bist doch alles in allem happy, oder?
Ja, ich bin mit den Rennwochenenden sehr zufrieden. Wir haben einen guten Job gemacht. Die Rundenzeiten waren extrem. Wir sind einfach eine Sekunde schneller gefahren wie alle. Und das auf die Pace bringen war sehr schwer. Ich habe sehr viele Fehler gemacht. Noch habe ich ein bisschen anreißen müssen. Ja, ich bin super zufrieden mit dem 3. Platz, dass es noch geklappt hat. Ja. Ich möchte nochmal Danke sagen zu meinem Team, zu meiner Familie und zu meinen Sponsoren, dass wir die das alles verwirklichen und dass wir die bei dem Traum weiterhelfen.
Den Traum, den wirst du hoffentlich noch ganz viele Jahre träumen und leben dürfen. Gratulation hier für diese wichtigen 16 Punkte. Sehr bescheiden, aber auch schon sehr, sehr erfolgreich. Und der Mann, der ist auch schon des Öfteren erfolgreich gewesen. Sascha De Wits. Sascha, the whole ERC team must be so happy that you're back on the podium.
Yeah, they are. I am happy too. It was a really good job by the team. We make a good improvement to Sachsenring, and now the pace was just incredibly high. Stephan make a really good job, and yeah, I'm very happy.
You can be really happy. The whole team can be really happy. All riders showed their really good potential the whole weekend, and see you on the podiums. Thanks. Ja, und der macht genau da weiter, wo er aufgehört hat. Einfach unbesiegbar an diesem Wochenende. Eine wahnsinnige Pace, die die Jungs da vorne gemacht haben, mit fast einer Sekunde schneller als im gestrigen Rennen. Und da einmal bitte einen riesen Applaus für Stephan Zuda! Yeah, mate. Yeah, it's getting like an interview form in between me and you regularly.
I would love to, till the end of the season. It would be best, but yeah, it was pretty tough race, to be honest. Much tougher than yesterday because the pace was much higher. I didn't expect it at all in this heat and stuff, but the group was much bigger as well, that we got a bit closer, so that was pretty nice. But I saw I have some little bit of margin to do in the last lap, so I just followed Sasha to see where I can gain those stands and just made it till the end, so I'm pretty happy. I would like to thank my dad with my stepmom here because they were supporting me across the whole distance. They came this distance to support me, so big thanks to them and to William, to Pema, to Ruben, to Karsten, to all my crew in my team, I would like to thank to them because the bike was spot on for this whole weekend.
Congrats, and this is really, really well deserved, this 25 points also for your championship. Also, you're not only giving a great show to all of our audience, also to our broadcast team from Czech Republic, and congrats from them and their side also to you.
And from the UK box as well. They have been
Und damit kommen wir zur Siegerehrung für das Rennen 2 der Euro Moto Sportbike. Die 3 Erstplatzierten kommen zu uns aufs Podium und den Anfang macht vom Viva bei Polka und Streb Racing Team auf der Aprilia aus Österreich. Euer Applaus für den Drittplatzierten, für Tobias Kitzbichler. Der Zweitplatzierte kommt aus Belgien, fährt Kawasaki, und zwar die vom ERC-Team mit der Startnummer 19. Euer Applaus für den Zweitplatzierten, für Sascha De Fietz. Und ganz oben Doppelsieger an diesem Wochenende. Saisonsieg Nummer 5 für den Mann vom Freudenberg Rora Paligo Racing Team aus Tschechien. Die Startnummer 23. Euer Applaus, euer Sieger Stephan Suda. Und natürlich gibt's Pokale für die Sammlung zu Hause, und die hat Max Kumpf, der Motorradreferent des ADAC Westfalen. Er kommt mit dem Pokal für den Drittplatzierten. Nochmal euer Applaus, Tobias Kitzbichler. Der Pokal für den Zweitplatzierten. Hier ist euer Applaus für Sascha De Fietz. Und hier kommt der größte Pokal. Er hat seine KTM-Triumph ganz nach oben gestellt. Hier ist euer Applaus für Stephan Suda. Und damit hören wir zu Ehren des Siegers die Nationalhymne Tschechiens.
What a race from the sport bikes here in Euromoto. Thrilling category always. Stephan Suda with another thrilling performance. He didn't have it all his own way by any means. Kitzbichler in the early stages of the race was intent on trying to find a way through, which on occasions he very nearly did, but it wasn't quite enough from the Austrian, and indeed soon he would find himself under threat and fire from the ERC Kawasaki of Sascha De Witt. De Witt moving to the inside on the approach to the S's. Jakob Rosenthaler moving up through the field as well. Saw him fighting for positions. We saw De Witt briefly in the lead, but ultimately Suda won out, extending his championship lead, adding yet another P1 trophy to his significant collection, and delight for the Triumph rider. Right, well, next up is the main event, race 2 of the weekend for the Euromoto Superbikes. Lukas Tulovic yet again claiming a win earlier on in the day. However, it was a curtailed race earlier on in the day, of course. They got 7, 8 laps into the race, and then unfortunately Twan Smits' engine let go. The Team Aprico Yamaha dropping oil, and that led to numerous parties hitting the deck behind him. He was running in second place. Tulovic was up ahead and didn't have to worry about it, but riders like Schroeter and Alt and Reiterberger, Kevin Orgis as well, hitting the deck. So a lot of the championship contenders came out of race 1 with wrecked motorcycles, and as of now, I'm not sure how many motorcycles will be taking the start of this race as a result of all of that. It was certainly a lot of damaged bike coming out of race 1. The race 1 result, of course, only at half points, but the following riders were DNFs. Twan Smits, Florian Alt, Marcus Reiterberger, Tony Finsterbusch, and Kevin Orgis. It was Finsterbusch, not Schroeter, who was involved in that. My apologies. So those were the 5 that didn't make it. That is the championship scenario as it stands. 141.5 points for Tulovic, 35.5 clear of Marcel Schroeter, who miraculously made it through the oil and the smoke earlier. Alt, Reiterberger, Smits, the top 5 in the points. I wonder if all of them will be starting. Finsterbusch and Orgis as well, 6th and 7th. So 5 of the 7 top riders in the championship didn't make it to the flag and were involved in that big red flag incident earlier on in the day. So really a stroke of fortune for Lukas Tulovic, who some would argue doesn't need any more fortune. He's been fabulous all season long. Just last weekend he made a cameo appearance in the Italian Championship, and would you believe it, he went and won. That's been his pattern this year. A victory at Misano last week. He's now back focusing on his primary campaign here in Euromoto. Good to see that Florian Alt is there on the 66. I don't think we have lost anyone courtesy of that incident, looking at the provisional grid. But with so much damage and so much drama after that crash, I somewhat reserve judgment until I see everyone on the grid. We're going to go down to the grid with Florian Alt.
Geschafft. Ich habe Toni Finsterbusch gerade noch ein zweites Mal durch die Boxeneinfahrt fahren sehen. Also der fährt jetzt noch mal eine Runde. Der Mann, der auch sein Motorrad irgendwie in den zweiten Wicken dieser Zäune irgendwie wieder bergen musste, ist der hier vor mir, Florian Alt. Aber das Holzhauer Racing Team hat schon wieder alles richtig gemacht, würde ich sagen.
Ja, Motorrad ist wirklich wie neu, kann man sagen. Die haben das echt mega gemacht. Das Team hat grandiose Arbeit geleistet. Und ich bin froh, dass das wieder fahrbereit ist.
Jens, komm einmal ganz kurz hier zwischen uns. Ich habe mir die Karre vorhin angeguckt, wenn ich ganz ehrlich bin. Die war ja, ich weiß nicht, wie hast du das hinbekommen?
Ja, einfach mal in die Trickkiste greifen, alle Teile aus dem LKW holen, die Achseln hochkrempeln und schrauben.
Jetzt mal Hand aufs Herz, was wurde alles neu gemacht?
Ja, Rahmen, Motor haben wir umgebaut und Gabel, alle Anbauteile, Verkleidung, Dash, alles.
In 3,5 Stunden?
Ja.
Naja, dann seht ihr einmal an dieser Stelle, was hier eigentlich möglich ist. Also absoluter Wahnsinn. Flo steht hier ready to race. Hast du das Bike jetzt, konntest du ein bisschen was erfühlen jetzt auf dieser kleinen In-Lap oder Out-Lap?
Ehrlich gesagt nicht so viel. Du versuchst natürlich die Basissachen schon mal zu checken. Hebeleien, Höhe der Bremse, Höhe des Schalthebels und sowas. Wie die Kupplung funktioniert, weil auch da gibt es dann Unterschiede für die Motorbremse. Also einfach ein bisschen Gefühl führen und vor allem auch den Körper wieder so ein bisschen in Bewegung kriegen, weil der ist doch recht steif.
Also der 223er IDM, damals noch Meister, steht hier bereit für das Rennen. Also wir sagen einfach an der Stelle schon mal Chapeau für das Holzhauer Racing Team.
Well, Alt there then, ready to go. there's currently no one in the middle of the front row. Twan Smits is seemingly missing. Perhaps they simply didn't have a spare engine after the quite spectacular detonation of the YZF-R1 motor earlier on in the day. It looks to me like Twan Smits is missing.
Den nehme ich hier gerade neben einem ja sehr, sehr schmunzelnden Kevin August. Du bist heilfroh, was Papa da schon wieder gezaubert hat, oder?
Ja.
Und das ganze Team, muss man sagen.
Es war schon eine Teamarbeit. Also wir haben da alle versucht, irgendwie so schnell wie möglich alles wieder hinzubekommen. Mal schauen, wie es jetzt am Ende aussieht. Also bei 100% sind wir jetzt nicht, aber ich versuche einfach irgendwie es über die Renndistanz zu retten. Mal gucken, was geht, aber wirklich... Ich denke, das Optimum wird es nie aus dem Rennen rauszuholen sein.
Jetzt kommt einmal ganz kurz hier nah an die Kameraaufnahme. Das muss ich jetzt hier einmal an der Stelle zeigen. Also, das ist hier einmal der Tank, ihr könnt sehen. Und der Rahmen hat natürlich auch gelitten ohne Ende. Und wenn ihr die Sprenkler natürlich jetzt auch in diesem gesamten Fußbereich seht, die Schwinge, die ist gerade abgedeckt, natürlich wegen den Reifenüberziehern. Und hier vorne kann man es auch wunderschön erkennen. Also die Karre, die sah vorhin auf jeden Fall aus wie Müll. So klar muss ich das sagen. Wenn ich den da drüben frage, und das ist nämlich der Vater und Schöpfer dieser beiden Prachtkerle, wenn ich den immer frage, kriegst du das wieder hin, René, dann sagt er zu mir, ja, habe ich eine Wahl?
Ja, eben. Habe ich sie?
Ne, doch, hast du.
Ja, aber wir haben es hingekriegt. Das ganze Team hat Höchstleistung gezeigt und ich denke, es ist immer gut, wenn man wieder hier steht. Dann.
Es ist auch einfach schön, wenn durch die Adern nicht nur Blut fließt, sondern einfach diese Racing-Gene, oder?
Manchmal ist ein bisschen Öl dabei.
Sehr schön. Danke, René.
Well, evidence of the incident from race 1 visible on the bike and the leathers of Kevin August. He's going to be starting this one from P8 on the grid. Is there also a gap on row 2? I don't know that I see everyone down there. Could be that Jan Early Janig is missing on the 14. Could be a big shame for him. Certainly looks like Twan Smits is a no-show or a pit starter potentially. But certainly we saw not just Smits' engine let go, but so much damage to the bikes that followed on the run down to Hasserode. Not a surprise that a few have ended up.
Absolut. Die Extra-Runde. Warum?
Ja, einfach, um nochmal ein bisschen Gefühl zu bekommen, halt war ja, doch schon einiges krumm. Um zu gucken, ob alles hält. Kombi ist neu, muss ein bisschen eingerollt werden.
Was wurde alles neu gemacht?
Also
alles.
Optik, ja, also neue Schwinge, Lenkkopf, Gabel, alles neu. Also da war nichts mehr zu gebrauchen. Rahmen haben wir verwendet und Motor.
Und die Felgen wurden auch erneuert, oder?
Ja, das sind auf jeden Fall nicht mehr die von uns.
Toni, super schön, dass du hier bist und dieses ja leicht dezimierte Feld ohnehin ja auch ohne ein Sommergörbe hier dann damit vervollständigst. Also wieder eine ganz, ganz tolle Teamarbeit hier vom Gerd 56 Team.
Well, there we go. That was Tony Finsterbush set to start from 9th position aboard his GRT 56 by RS Speedbikes machine. Currently sits 6th in the championship. It will be a bit of a shuffle up in the championship with certainly Twan Smits missing, was 5th coming into this weekend.
Ja, und ich stehe hier auch schon wieder bei Markus Reiterberger. Markus, du bist auch schon wieder Strahlemann und Söhne hier, kann man sagen. Bike steht wieder vollkommen aufgebaut. Hättest du damit gerechnet?
Als ich da hinten vom Berg weggeschleppt habe, hätte ich ehrlich gesagt nicht damit gerechnet, weil es war wirklich alles kaputt, was kaputt sein kann. Deswegen danke an mein Team, an meine fleißigen Mechaniker und alle, die jetzt mitgeholfen haben. Auch von der anderen Seite vom Team. Die haben das Bike jetzt wirklich komplett neu aufgebaut. Jetzt in der Warm-Up-Lap habe ich nichts besonders gespürt, also ich denke, das passt. Die neue Kombi ist ein bisschen eng, aber die fahren wir jetzt auch gleich. Also ich bin zuversichtlich, weil das Rennen war bis dahin ganz gut. Und ich möchte natürlich das Team belohnen für die harte Arbeit und einen guten Rennabschluss nach Hause fahren hier von Oschersleben.
Reiti, wir wünschen dir ganz, ganz viel Erfolg dabei. Ob sich das Ganze für das Team um Werner Dahm bezahlt macht, das werden wir in Kürze sehen. Machen noch einmal für euch ganz kurz Werbung und dann geht es hier zu dem absoluten Blockbuster-Rennen des heutigen Sonntags. Rennen Nummer 2 unserer Superbike.
Well, those are the faces of the championship. Unfortunately, not everyone is going to be taking the start after a big crash for Twan Smits, or triggered by Twan Smits' engine blow. We are missing a few on the grid. Lukas Tulovic will start the race from pole position. Smits is missing, but Florian Alt is there to take up the third slot. Marcel Schrotter, Markus Reiterberger on row 2. Looks like Jan Janig is missing, unfortunately, from 6th. 7th on the grid, Leon Orgis, Kevin Orgis and Tony Finsterbusch. Milan Merkelbach, Jan Muir and Marco Fetz round out row 4. And then at the back of the field, Lorenzo Zanetti and Christoph Bienlich. Zanetti hoping to make something happen here, was 5th in the race earlier, courtesy of the riders going down, but certainly that qualifying performance and really a lot of the performances this season not quite up to Zanetti's high standards. The veteran rider, the long-time Ducati test pilot, the former Italian champion. He certainly expects great things when he gets aboard a Panigale V4R, and let's see if he can make it happen here. The formation lap begins then. Unfortunately, without Twan Smits, who briefly led the race earlier in the day. Tulovic will be very, very relieved that Smits wasn't in the lead when that engine let go. He was the only rider at the front other than Marcel Schrotter who wasn't affected really. Lots of wounded bikes that have been repaired, lots of absentees, Jan Janig and Twan Smits. Of course, not back out after the race 1 incident, but also riders like Hannes Suma, who aren't here, or who isn't here, I should say. He has an injury that he sustained in testing ahead of the Suzuka 8 Hours, and unfortunately can't be with us. Hopes to be back for Assen. The question is then, Lukas Tulovic at the front, is he surmountable this weekend? Florian Alt, Marcel Schrotter and Markus Reiterberger, the other parties that will start the race from the front 2 rows of the grid. Those are going to be the task force effectively to try and fell the giant of this year's series. Tulovic, who of course comes in as 2025 champion. Won the IDM Superbikes as it was last year and is currently on a course to do the same in 2026 in the newly branded Euromoto series. Can he take another big step today with a 6th win of the season and a 2nd of the weekend? There are some parties behind that would like to dispute it. We begin the race, and it looks like a good launch from Florian Alt, is it? No, in fact, one of the BMWs gets the best start of anybody. Was that Schroeter up into 2nd? I think it may have been. Florian Alt in 3rd place. Tulovic, look at that, just off in the distance in the lead. Twan Smits not being there in 2nd place gives him a nice edge into the first corners. I believe that is Schroeter in 2nd position on the GRT 56 machine. Then it's Alt and then Reiterberger. I think that is in 4th place. Straying wide there is Schroeter. Florian Alt is going to get back through. Alt is through into 2nd place. Just running it too wide, carrying too much speed through the last pass of the triple into the following corner. The tight right-hander that makes up turn 7 of the lap. And it is Alt back into P2. Cost himself some time and effort there getting back around the BMW. Can he now close in on the Ducati, the Triple M Ducati Frankfurt entry of Lukas Tulovic? It is Schroeter in 3rd place. It is Reiterberger in 4th. Then it's Kevin Orgis in 5th place. Jan-Ole Jannig is there. He's in 6th position. So only Twan Smits not taking the start. I didn't see Jan-Ole Jannig, or at least I didn't think I saw him, but he is there, and that is good. So only Twan Smits, unfortunately, not taking the start after his engine detonation in race 1. 18 laps of racing here. And again, wide goes Schroeter, just asking too much of the front tyre and the apex speed. And this time Reiterberger has taken advantage and moved up to 3rd place aboard the Master Oil Alpha Van Zon BMW. So Schroeter has gone from 2nd to 4th in the space of a lap and a couple of corners, which is not ideal. Can he retaliate? Can he stay in the podium hunt? Kevin Orgis would certainly like to try and move up to P4. Tulovic with a lead of just under 9/10 at the front of the field. Tulovic was backed every inch of the way in his opportunity to race in the Italian Superbikes last week by his team boss, Matthias Moser. Or, yeah, Triple M team manager, Matthias Moser. Moser, a racer's racer. He's done some Ferrari Challenge, actually, on 4 wheels. And as such, when his star man Tulovic gets an opportunity to ply his trade, he's less likely to say no than most, and sure enough, Tulovic coming in with winning form from Italy this weekend, and so far he's looking on course to continuing his winning ways here in the Euromoto. Winning the earlier race, curtailed though it was, and building a gap now at the front. We see here the 14 of Jan-Ole Jannig. Of course, Jan Oehler, the rider that we've seen in this paddock for a very long time. He was the Supersport 300 champion all the way back in 2017. And the 25-year-old who was 6th in last year's standings, looking to go better again this year. However, 10th in the standings right now could do with some strong finishes in the top 5 if possible to move back up the order. Ooh, and running wide there. Whom was that? I think that was Kevin Orgis. Yes, it was. So Finsterbusch has gotten past him for 6th position. Oh, sorry, no, Jan Oehler Jönig has gotten past him for 5th position. Just dropping back then. It seems as if those BMWs struggle to really bite at turn 7, whether it's just a coincidence that it's been the BMWs that have been the ones doing it, but that's what we've seen now a couple of times, of course, from Schroeter, now from Orgis as well. Tulovic building that gap at the front, 1.4 seconds over Florian Alt. Reiterberger runs 3rd. Schroeter runs 4th position. Jan Oehler Jönig up into 5th place. Again, that's a bolster to him if he can finish there. Oh, out wide, wide, wide goes one of the GERT 56 bikes. Was that Finsterbusch from 7th? I think it was. Down at the Hasseröder Bend, which I imagine is substantially less slippery than it was before the oil went down, or before the cement dust went down earlier in the day, but can't imagine it's the best of racing surfaces through there. Seeing there that the 45 bike, that's the other ORM racing team, the younger brother to Kevin Orgis, Leon Orgis. He's only had a single top 10 finish before this weekend. But of course, having stayed on the bike earlier, he claimed P4 in the race earlier on. But again, only being rewarded half points for his troubles. And behind them is that Zanetti. Yes, it is, in 9th place. Lorenzo Zanetti, just behind Leon Orgis, behind a plethora of BMWs. Florian Alt, meanwhile, on the sole Honda. Under scrutiny here from Markus Reiterberger, who by just about every metric going is the most successful rider in the lineage of this series, formerly the IDM Superbikes, now of course the Euromoto Superbikes. Champion in 2013, 2015, 2017 and 2022. Has also been a champion in European Superstock in the FIM Asian Road Racing Championship. And indeed has been a part of the teams that have brought the BMW Motorrad great success in the Endurance World Championship as well. Has finished 3rd in that championship in 23, 24 and 2025 as well, sharing with the likes of Sylvain Gintoli and Stephen Ovendal. Sorry. Reiterberger sees this as a championship on the rise at the moment with the Euromoto branding, and came into the year talking tough, really, saying that he thought he could take it to Tulovic, and he's going to take it to Florian Alt there. Alt runs it wide. We've seen how much wind there is here today on the grid a couple of times, and I just wonder if maybe there's some tailwind going into turn 7, that seems to be the place where everyone is running deep. Either way, Reiterberger then up into second place. Reiterberger, who claimed his first win of the year back at Brno, yet to reach the top step a second time. He's got some work to do to catch Tulovic, but it looks like he's got the best of Alt for now. What is the gap between between Reiterberger and Tulovic then? 2.7 seconds. It would take any rider an awful lot to get the best of Tulovic with that kind of gap between them. Can Reiterberger step up to the task? In part, it'll be down to whether Florian Alt can mount a counter-attack, but I'm just not convinced that Master Royal BMW of Reiterberger has the pace to close in on Tulovic. However, I would very much welcome being proven wrong, and indeed this is the first time all race that Reiterberger has been in clean air, so we could see the balances of this race shift here. The quote at the start of the year from Reiterberger was, "I saw how dominant Lukas Tulovic was on the Ducati and how the BMWs had stumbled. I thought to myself that it was my job to put things right again." And well, he certainly went some way to putting it right with that win in Brno. Currently sits 4th in the championship, 56.5 back from Tulovic. Second place would be a healthy points haul, and indeed it would put him clear of Florian Alt, who he just overtook. It would move him up to 3rd in the championship going into Assen if things finish as they are. Last time across the line, Reiterberger was fractionally faster, but only fractionally. Less than a 10th quicker than Tulovic. He's going to need more than that. And I dare suggest that Tulovic has not been streaking ahead and frying his Pirellis. He will have been conservative to this point. Zanetti, meanwhile, closing in there on Leon Orgis on the other of the Triple M Ducatis. Look at that gap that Reiterberger has built over Alt. A good half dozen bike lengths as they turn into the S's. He's done good work so far. Here comes Kevin Orgis to the inside there, potentially of Finsterbusch. Couldn't get far enough alongside to make a move. Finsterbusch on the GERT 56 bike. It's a 4th, 5th and 6th position for GERT 56 at the moment. They'd much rather have a 1, 2, 3, but 3 in the top half dozen would be good. But the Minnow team, the ORM team, the family team, the Orgis brothers doing great work as we see Zanetti there up into 8th position. And that was at the expense of Leon Orgis. His elder brother Kevin, though, infringing on P6 at the moment, just shadowing Tony Finsterbusch. Reiterberger quicker through the first sector. Took another 10th and a half or so out of Tulovic on the previous lap, but Tulovic won't be too worried. That said, the shapes that bike was throwing out of the chicane makes me think he is maybe pushing a bit. You saw it getting pretty wild there. And I'm getting a bulletin that the 56 has crashed. We haven't seen that, but Tony Finsterbusch on the timing screen is listed as number 56, crash, rider okay. Now, where did that happen? And is that bulletin accurate? Indeed, Finsterbusch is falling through the field. So the 56 has had a moment somewhere. Kevin Orgis then is up into P6. And Zanetti has inherited P7. You see Finsterbusch's 56 falling through the timing tower, but we haven't seen what happened or where it happened. But we know that the rider is okay. That's the important thing. Thanks to race control for confirming. Last time by, Reiterberger took a tiny fraction more out of Tulovic, but Tulovic has responded by going nearly 2/10 quicker through the first sector alone. And Tulovic takes another 3/10 out of the gap, or increases the gap by another 3/10 through the middle sector. I think Tulovic has lifted the anchor and started pushing. What's his lap time this time by? A 24.3. The best lap of the race on fresh tyres was from Tulovic. It was a 1:24.170. And all of a sudden, he's gapped Reiterberger by half a second. I think Tulovic was saying there, you know what? I've got pace to spare, sunshine. Just kind of letting Reiterberger know that those incremental gains were not going to be enough. Tulovic just has this sublime ability. Really seems to be at one with the Panigale V4R from Triple M. We watch as the pair of GRT 56 bikes run in tandem. Is that Schroeter and Jan-Ole Janig? In fact, well, yes, it can only be them, of course, because their compatriot Finsterbusch has hit the deck. It's a bittersweet year, this, for GRT 56, of course. Back in January, the team lost their leader, Karsten Wolf. But they continue on and will push on. Looking to shore up the team's legacy, Karsten's legacy going forward. Tulovic's legacy in this championship is ever increasing. Of course, not only has he won championships here in what was IDM Superbike, now the Euromoto Superbikes, but before that he was the FIM Moto 2 European champion back in 2022. The first ever German rider to win that series. And went on to win races as well in Moto E. But Tulovic seemingly getting into his stride now aboard production bikes. We've seen him wildcard a couple of times in the Superbikes as well. And as he continues to develop and gets his head around what it takes to find those last elite percentiles of performance aboard a Superbike, I suspect we'll see Tulovic continue to do great things, whether here in Euromoto or further afield, further up the ladder. Be difficult to argue with the campaign he's had so far. 5 wins in the bank so far, and he's certainly put the down payment on win number 6 at the moment with that advantage over Reiterberger. We've got another rider dropping through the order, but not because of any drama. Marco Fetz just losing a position down to 11th place. That was the 71 of Chris Bienlich who moved past him. Bienlich, who debuted last year in the Superbike category, having previously been a bit of a Supersport specialist, taking a few podiums in the IDM series as it was. Now 30 years of age, the Pusnek resident. Schroeter keeping control of that 4th place. If he gives his teammate Jan-Ole Janeg half an opportunity, I'm quite sure the move will be made. I don't think there are team orders where it comes to 4th place, and indeed where it comes to Jan-Ole Janeg. Zanetti is on the back of Kevin Orgis as well for 6th position. The other Triple M Ducati is just chipping away. What was the gap between them? 0.4 of a second. Zanetti in with a shot of moving up to P6 here, certainly. It does seem that Kevin Orgis's pace has fallen off quite a bit. He was, of course, pressuring Janeg for 5th place, or for 6th place as it was at the time, earlier on, and now that's just not the case. In fact, sorry, it was Finsterbusch, of course, that he was fighting earlier on. What a joy it is here to just watch Tulovic pressuring and pressing, pushing to that envelope with precision. I mean, look at that huge buck and weave there. That was a bit beyond the pale, quite frankly, but it just shows that Tulovic is willing to hang it out and press on. He's so comfortable on the bike that he doesn't need to be conservative. Why bother? Keep pressing. There is that battle for 6th place. Orgis ahead of Zanetti. Zanetti certainly one of the senior riders on the grid. 38 years of age. He scored his best result of the year here last year with a 3rd place. Indeed, earlier in the day, courtesy of that curtailed race, 4th position was his best finish of the year so far here at Oschersleben. Going back over 20 years, Zanetti was a bit of a 125cc specialist, ran in the World Championship in 125s for 6 seasons. Then went through super stocks and had a good battle in 2011 to take 3rd in the FIM Superstock 1000 Cup and ended up just behind the vice champion, some bloke called Danilo Petrucci. You may have heard of him. He's been all over the map running Italian Superbikes, winning that championship, has done Moto America, has done the World Superbikes, the World Supersports, where he finished 5th in that championship, 3rd, sorry, in that championship in 2015. So while Zanetti is maybe not quite on his peak form this season, we know what he's capable of, and hopefully in these last few events of the year we will see that 87 back to where he wants to be. We'll be starting the final lap of the race this time by, and Tulovic on course for an absolutely dominant victory. Has led every step of this race. He had a half dozen bike lengths as he exited turn 2, and at no point has the gap decreased. Almost 5 seconds clear of Reiterberger. Here's Florian Alt in a fairly lonely P3 ahead of Schroeter. For Florian Alt, this will be a decent showing. It will put him behind Reiterberger in the championship. He will drop down to 4th in the standings with Reiterberger ahead of him, but he'll still be up there, and with Twan Smits not taking the start, it will kind of shore up that top 4, that they should be okay to contest for the top 3 places in the championship. But I think they'll all be scratching their heads. How are we going to beat this man? How do we best Lukas Tulovic on his best day? I don't know the answer. What a ride it's been. The Triple M Ducati Frankfurt entry powers out of the final quarter. And Tulovic makes it a double once again at Motorsportarena Oschersleben. Reiterberger takes 2nd. Florian Alt will take 3rd place. Tulovic a happy rider. Reiterberger has to acknowledge just how incredible that performance was. Cannot be overstated how great of a rider Reiterberger is, and to show him a clean pair of heels is to really showcase fantastic talent. Reiterberger pulling off there, I think, to hopefully wave to the fans, not because of a bike issue. Lots of fans here this weekend. The Euromoto package and some of the major stars we've got across all 3 divisions of Euromoto this year have been bringing in great spectator audiences. I'm sure that the motorcycle racing faithful in 2 weeks' time at Assen will come out in their droves for one of the major events of the season for them. Always a thrill to go to the TT circuit Assen. 2 wheels or 4, but especially on 2. Lukas Tulovic being greeted here. Is he getting a shirt? Apparently not, but makes his way back onto the circuit and immediately does a wheelie after driving across the grass. I would perhaps not do that, but that's also down to hand-eye coordination, quite frankly. Lukas Tulovic extends that championship lead. He steals the headlines again in Euromoto Superbike. Well, Lukas Tulovic, 5.8 seconds clear ultimately of Markus Reiterberger. Florian Alt taking 3rd place. Marcel Schroeter taking 4th position, was up there at the front early on. Jan Olijanek, Kevin Orgis rounding out the top 6 ahead of Lorenzo Zanetti. Leon Orgis in 8th place. Jan Muir in 9th. Christoph Bienlich in 10th place. Merkelbag and Marco Fetz rounding out the finishing order. Of course, we didn't see Twan Smits at all in this race after his engine let go earlier on in the day. And while we didn't see it happen, we also understand that Tony Finsterbusch had a drama, the Leipzig-based rider. He will be bitterly disappointed to drop back in the point standings. Of course, he was 4th place in last year's championship, and that might be a tricky feat to match now. He was 6th position and a ways back from the top 5 coming into this weekend. Lukas Tulovic in conversation with team, in conversation with his support system. And by no means is this championship decided, but he will now have over 2 race victories between himself and the next competitor, and that's a really handy buffer to have with just 6 races remaining. He's put his first finger on the championship, I'd say. He's not got one hand on it just yet. It's too early in the season, but just maybe an index finger placed gently on the championship that he won last year, as if to say, just claiming this one a little early. Do your worst, everyone. Florian Alt, 66 bike there. A solid podium finish for the Holzhauer Racing Promotion team. That 66, of course, a tribute to his hero, Germany's great hope of the 2000s in MotoGP, Alex Hoffmann. Was 2nd in last year's standings and will be frustrated to see Tulovic sprinting
Weiter
off
mit den
again.
Interviews aus dem zweiten Superbike-Rennen und beginnen damit mit jemandem, der hat sich das vorgenommen, hat es dann umgesetzt und jetzt steht er hier. Markus Reiterberger. Junge, also wieder ein absolut toughes Rennen und dazu auch noch natürlich mit einem komplett voll aufgebauten Motorrad. Wahnsinn. Reiti, wie lief es allgemein?
Ja, erstmal vielen Dank an mein Team und an alle Mechaniker, die so hart gearbeitet haben, dass das Bike jetzt wieder aufbauen. Wir sind 10 Minuten vor dem Beginn des Rennens fertig geworden, Hebel eingestellt und raus. Mein Start war okay, aber die erste Kurve war bescheiden. Aber ich habe von Anfang gefühlt, das Bike fühlt sich genauso an wie das alte. Nur die Hinterradbremse konnte ich nicht verwenden, das war ja wurscht. Auf alle Fälle hat es ganz gut gepasst. Die neue Kombi war jetzt auch nicht so komfortabel, aber es hat irgendwie gereicht. Ich bin zufrieden und habe einen kleinen Dank ans Team zurückgegeben. Ich denke, Platz 2 ist für heute ein gutes Ergebnis nach dem scheiß ersten Rennen. Wir sind froh, dass wir alle heil im Ziel sind. Es waren geile Rennen und einfach wieder schön in Oschersleben zu sein. So viele Leute da und einfach, ich bin dankbar. Vielen Dank.
Danke, Reiti. Wir sind auch dankbar für dieses tolle Rennen, was du uns hier geliefert hast. Und machen hier weiter mit unserem Flo. Flo, heute wieder auch ein bisschen Pech gehabt, eine super gute Pace, nochmal was gefunden eigentlich im ersten Rennen, super mit von der Partie dabei gewesen. Man hatte eigentlich den Eindruck, du kannst da auch nochmal im ersten Rennen was machen, bis natürlich dem Zeitpunkt, wo es dann für dich auch vorbei war. Das Bike jetzt, wie es aufgebaut war, hat sich ein bisschen anders angefühlt?
Ja, minimal anders, aber es ist perfekt dargestanden. Also die haben wirklich das Maximum getan von der Mechanikerseite aus und ich muss sagen, wir waren so schnell wie nie schon wieder. Also wir haben uns stark gesteigert. Ich bin noch nie so viele 24 tief gefahren in einem Rennen und ich weiß nicht, wo Markus die Performance heute seit dem Warm-Up aus dem Hut gezaubert hat, aber es war nicht möglich für uns heute und Glückwunsch an die beiden, die haben auch ein super Rennen gefahren und auch danke an die Marshalls, dass das am Ende heute Morgen so gut und reibungslos über die Bühne ging.
Glückwunsch einmal für dich hier, für diesen 3. Platz. Wichtige Punkte nach Hause genommen und mit dem man einfach hier in Oschersleben auch mit dem kein Kraut zu gewinnen ist, weil er sich denkt, irgendwie er hat andere Termine und muss schnell nach Hause. Lukas Tulovic heute Morgen 12,5, jetzt die vollen 25 Punkte. Ich glaube, beste Ausbeute an diesem Wochenende.
Ja, definitiv. Also sehr, sehr großes Lob auch an mein Team, die die ganze Mittagspause durchgearbeitet haben. Da muss ich auch nochmal eine Lanze brechen. Der Flo wirklich sehr fair play, der uns den Hinweis gegeben hat nach dem ersten Rennen, dass ein bisschen Qualm aus unserer Ducati kommt. Und dann haben die Mechaniker die Mittagspause geskippt, einen anderen Motor eingebaut, einen gebrauchten von den ersten Läufen. Und dann waren wir wieder safe für das Rennen. Also großes Lob an mein Team. Die haben fantastisch gearbeitet, das ganze Wochenende auch, was das Setup betrifft, sodass ich meine Arbeit auf der Strecke machen konnte. Und natürlich überglücklich, dass wir jetzt ein richtiges Rennen gefahren sind und volle Punkte geholt haben. Bin sehr zufrieden und ja, danke an alle.
Das kannst du sein. Gratulation. Sehen dich gleich auf dem Podium. Aber auch hier auch nochmal der Hinweis an die Fairness. Trotz der Punkte, die man natürlich auch individuell immer wieder mit nach Hause nehmen muss. Es ist sehr, sehr viel Ehrgeiz und die wollen alle Erster werden, die wollen alle ganz weit nach vorne, aber trotzdem gibt es da einfach die freundschaftlichen Tipps, dass vielleicht das ein oder andere kleine technische Mangel am Motorrad ist. Daher Chapeau und auch nochmal wirklich, wirklich erwähnenswert, dass hier so viel Fairness im Spiel ist.
Next up then,
und damit kommen wir zur Siegerehrung. Moto Superbike Rennen Nummer 2. Und wir holen unsere ersten 3 Platzierten auf die Tribüne und aufs Podest hier oben. Und ihr macht da gleich mächtig Lärm, wenn die nach oben kommen. Holzhauer Racing Promotion sichert sich den Platz Nummer 3 auf dem Podest. Nämlich mit dem Fahrer aus Deutschland mit der Nummer 66. Euer Applaus, Florian Alt! Auch wieder mit hier auf dem Podium in der Euromoto. Die Startnummer 28 vom Master Oil Alpha Fanson BMW Team. Ebenfalls aus Deutschland. Euer Applaus. Markus Reiti Reiterberger. Und er dominiert fast nach Belieben. Triple M Ducati Frankfurt, die Nummer 1, auf der 1, erneut Doppelsieger an diesem Wochenende, der 6. Saisonsieg für Lukas Tulovic. Und die Eventmanagerin der Euromoto Anna Temporale kommt mit den Pokalen. Pokal Nummer 3, euer Applaus, Florian Alt! Der Pokal für den Zweitplatzierten. Nochmal euer Applaus für Markus Reiterberger! Und erneut geht der größte Pokal und euer größter Applaus, den ihr geben könnt, Lukas Tulovic! Und zu Ehren des Siegers hören wir die deutsche Nationalhymne.
Well, a huge congratulations to our top 3. A well-deserved champagne shower to conclude their weekend of racing in the Euromoto Superbikes. A hearty congratulations to our competitors on what has been a fabulous weekend here at Oschersleben. A little bit of drama here or there, I grant you that much. But we have seen a lot of action across all 3 divisions. And of course, it's a short break before we next go racing. It is going to be Assen in 2 weeks' time to conclude the August running. We'll be back in September, of course, with more. But for now, we bid you farewell from Oschersleben.